Bonjour! Thank you for joining me today for Princess Storytime. Today I'll be reading from my very old fairy tales book. I'll be reading the story of the Emperor's New Clothes, as retold by Katherine Gibson. Once upon a time, there was an emperor who thought more about his clothes than about anything else. He spent all that he had upon them. He cared nothing for affairs of state. He left the governing of the country to his ministers. He cared nothing for amusements. If he rode into the country or to the woods, it was only to show off his new clothes. He had a new costume for every hour of the day. While in some lands it might have been said, the emperor is in his council chamber, here it was always, the emperor is in the wardrobe changing his clothes. Now the city in which the emperor lived was a very bright and busy one. Strangers were always coming and going. Kings, beggars, merchants, peasants rubbed elbows in the crowded streets. It so happened that one day, two rogues came to the city and set themselves up as weavers. They claimed they could weave beautiful and rare cloth. The most remarkable thing about their fabric, they said, was that if the person looking at it were a fool or unfit to do their work, they would see nothing at all. To such a one, the cloth would remain invisible. When the emperor heard of this, he said, "What a fine thing it would be to own such wondrous cloth! I can soon tell who in my kingdom are fools and who are unfit for their offices. Those who are wise will be able to see the clothes, as will those who fill their offices well. All others will look at the cloth and see nothing." So when the two rogues demanded a great deal of money in advance, it was given to them. They set up their looms where everyone could see. They wove with empty shuttles, and now and then they would stop as if to cut and snip. But of course they cut nothing from nothing. And all the while, they asked the emperor for silver thread and gold, for jewels to sew upon the cloth, and for silken threads of every color. And all this they hid away safely from themselves. Their money bags bulged. The emperor thought that he would like to visit the weavers, but still he did not wish to be the first to go. "I will send my minister," said the emperor. "He certainly is no fool, and he does his work well." The minister visited the two rogues. They were busy at work with no thread. They pointed out to the minister the wonderful colors. "See how unusual the design, how original. Never before have gold and silver threads been used with such cleverness," the weavers added, gently stroking the place where the cloth should have been. The minister looked at the looms in amazement. He could see nothing at all. "How strange," the minister said to himself. "Surely it cannot be that I am unworthy of the trust the emperor has put in me. I can certainly not believe I am unfit for my office. But if it is so, no one must guess the unhappy truth. It will remain a secret with me." So the minister admired all that he saw. He listened carefully as the rogues described the patterns so he could remember and tell the emperor. "Yes, I am much pleased," he said, "and I will bring word to the emperor of the excellence of your weaving." Since the minister thought the cloth so beautiful, the two rogues dared to ask for yet more gold and silver thread and more pearls. As before, they put everything into their pockets. The emperor sent another official of his court. When he visited the rogues and saw the empty looms and watched them weave with empty shuttles, he was struck dumb. "Is this not a wonderful piece of cloth?" asked the weavers, pointing to nothing at all. "See how the colors blend and the jewels gleam." "Ah, I am not a fool, that I know," the official said to himself. "And if I am unfit for my high place, it must be concealed at all costs." So he bowed and said, "Never have I seen such colors. Wonderful, delightful." The rogues again demanded more silk, more gold and silver thread. At last the emperor himself decided to visit the weavers. He took with him the two who had already been to see the impostors, and a great number from his court besides, all those who held the most important positions. When the emperor entered the room, the rogues were busily sending their empty shuttles back and forth across the empty looms. The emperor could not see a thing. "Oh," he groaned, "how terrible that I, the emperor, should fail to see the cloth. Nothing could be worse. If this should become known, it would surely bring disaster to me." So when all the courtiers called out, "Exquisite, enchanting, such a fine weave, such an elaborate pattern, Such a gold contrast of color! The praise of the emperor was even louder. He ordered enough cloth for a suit of clothes to wear on the occasion of a great procession that was soon to take place. "That will make the day notable indeed," cried all the courtiers. "Surely this costume will outshine any that you have ever worn before." The weavers worked hard on the new cloth. As people passed the shop, they saw the two rogues making the motions of weaving, and in great haste too. The night before the cloth was to be delivered, they burned 16 candles to let everyone know how hard they were working. It was late indeed when they made all the movements, first of cutting the precious cloth from the loom with their great scissors, then of carefully folding and wrapping it. Not for their lives would any who were watching have admitted that they failed to see so much as a shadow of the cloth. The two rogues went to the castle. They had the emperor's new clothes all ready, they said. One held out his arm as if to show a sleeve. The other held out what he said were the trousers. "Magnificent! Superb!" cried the courtiers, although they saw nothing. "And now," said one of the rogues, "will your majesty please take off his old suit? He will be surprised to find this new one as light as a spider's web. He will hardly know that he has anything on, but that is one of the great advantages." The emperor took off his old suit. One of the rogues pretended to put trousers on the emperor, the second his tunic. One seemed to be arranging his collar, and the other appeared to be tying something around the waist. That was the train. Two high chamberlains bent over as if to pick it up. They dared not admit that they could feel no weight in their hands, and that the train was quite invisible. "Remarkable!" cried the courtiers. "Quite the handsomest suit the emperor has ever worn." The emperor turned and twisted before the mirror, as if admiring his new clothes. Not for 10 kingdoms would he have said that as far as he could see, he had nothing on at all. Word now came that the canopy under which the emperor was to walk was quite ready. The emperor could neither see nor feel his clothes, but he held himself all the straighter as he joined the procession. His two high chamberlains walked behind him, as if holding up a heavy train. As they passed through the streets, all the people shouted, "See the emperor's new clothes! Never has he had such a fine suit. How rich the cloth, how bright the jewels!" "But," said a little child, "he has nothing on." The child's father nodded and said, "Listen to the innocent. He says the emperor has nothing on." One passed the word to the next. "A child says the emperor has nothing on." Then the whole crowd shouted, "The emperor has nothing on!" The emperor heard them, but he only held his head higher and walked more stiffly than ever, and behind him the two chamberlains carried the invisible train. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you again soon. Au revoir!